Hello and welcome to the Yair Netanyahu Show. After a long break we took, I'm happy to be back. And today I'm with a very special guest, Dennis Prager. It's a nationally syndicated radio talk show heard through America for the past 22 years. He's the founder of the largest conservative video site in the world, PragerU University, which has over 1 billion viewers a year. More than half of Prager's viewers are younger people under 35. He's the author of 10 books. Prager, Dennis, thank you for being with me today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
I'm a big fan of your work and of your videos, and I'm encouraging all our viewers to, watch your videos on YouTube, on Facebook.
Well,
Twitter.
it's interesting. A lot of Israelis do watch PragerU videos. I know this because when I'm in Israel, I'm very often recognized. So, and it means a lot to me because Israel is very important to me.
Yes, you're also Jewish. There's so much to cover, with this battle between left and right, conservatism and progressive. And it's pretty much the same in America and Israel. I feel it's really, what's happening in Israel is just an extension of the battle that's going on in America and going on in all of the Western world. So we have several topics I want to talk to you about. First of all, we see that there is a weaponization of state prosecution and by corrupt attorney generals around the world, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Italy, they're going after Matteo Salvini, whether in America, all the stories that are going on in America. In Israel, they made a whole coup. They made a coup d'etat through a pen, not through a gun. We see it happened recently in Austria. How do you explain this phenomenon of the left weaponizing the state prosecution?
Well, I have a statement, a motto, munach, as I think you'd say in Hebrew, and it's one that helps people understand the world. Everything the left touches, it ruins. And I want to make something very clear. By left, I do not mean liberal. I make a distinction between liberalism and leftism. In fact, they have nothing in common. Leftism does not believe in free speech. Liberalism does believe in free speech. I have a video up at PragerU, and they're all 5 minutes, our videos. And it gives 6 differences between liberals and leftists. Liberals believe in capitalism. Leftists hate capitalism. Liberals support Israel. The left has always hated Israel. Liberals believe in racial integration, and leftists build black dormitories and have black graduation exercises at colleges in the United States. So I want to make clear when I say the left ruins everything, not liberals. Liberals don't ruin everything. Unfortunately, liberals vote for the left, at least in America. I am much more adept at American politics than Israeli politics. In fact, it's generally been my assumption that in Israel, you have more liberals than leftists. But I may be wrong. I'll just tell you this. I debated at Oxford, the world famous Oxford Union. I debated there. Now, listen to what the subject was. Is Israel or Hamas the greater threat to Middle East peace? So whom did I debate? A professor of international relations, and he was Israeli. He was Israeli born, grew up in Israel, served in Tzahal, and here he was arguing against me and my partner, as I against him and his partner. It's 2 against 2 at Oxford, and he argued that Israel was the greater threat to Middle East peace than Hamas. So this man is what I would call a genuine leftist.
Yeah. sadly, the people like this man are currently controlling the Israeli government. So, good luck for us with that. You made a very important distinguish between leftism and liberalism, that it's not the same. It's actually the opposite. It might be
That's right. They are
they're
opposites. That's
opposite
right.
because the left is totalitarian. And
That's
we
right.
see that tolerant liberal left of the 90s, of the Democrat Party of Israel, is no longer gone. The left today is completely Marxist, completely uh, very violent, very
That's right.
against freedom of speech, and
Well, it hates the West.
yeah, and it hates America, it hates Israel, it hates the
That's
Western
right.
culture.
That's right.
But we see they're taking over and they're becoming more and more extreme.
Well, it's taken 70 years. My generation, the baby boomers, as we're called. So we were born after World War II. And I went to Columbia, and I remember I learned a lot of this nonsense in the 70s when I did my graduate work at the School of International Affairs. I learned that men and women were basically the same. I learned that the United States and the Soviet Union were moral equivalents. It was just an economic battle of communism or Marxism versus capitalism. It wasn't tyranny versus liberty. It was capitalism versus Marxism in the economic sphere. So when you have 70 years, and the truth is even more, you can go back to the early 20th century, but certainly then, to indoctrinate young people for 3 generations, you're going to win the society.
Right. So we see that the Marxists, the radicals, that used to be on the fringes of the left, of whether the Democrat Party or in Israel, the Israeli left public, are now the mainstream. And this mainstream controls the media, control the judiciary, at least in Israel. They control the judicial, all the judicial branches. They control the state prosecution. They control the deep state, the bureaucracy, the police in Israel, and also the universities. Your videos are being blocked on YouTube, many of them, and on Facebook, and we have the matter called shadow banning, which is not officially blocking something, but just making it impossible, like, that your followers don't see your posts anymore. Mm-hmm. How do you think that conservatives in Israel and America can overcome this, taking to consideration that Facebook, that controls Instagram and WhatsApp and Twitter, are the only means of communication and making your voice heard in today's world?
The United States has always been known correctly as the freest country in the world, and the biggest freedom there is free speech. I remember when I was a kid, Nazis wanted to march in a place called Skokie, a suburb of Chicago, because, despicable people that they are, they knew that many Holocaust survivors lived in Skokie. Yet every liberal organization defended the right of Nazis to march in Chicago and Skokie. And I agree with that. In America, a Nazi can speak up, a Nazi can say, "I hate Jews," et cetera, et cetera. Americans always, Civil War, before the Civil War, since the Civil War, since World War I, the one thing everyone agreed on was, I may disagree with you, but I will fight to the death for your right to speak, to say what you believe. That is no longer the case. Free speech is threatened for the first time in American history. And you cannot stay a free country if free speech is threatened. And it's being threatened not by the government. It's being threatened by private enterprise. This is another shockaroo, to use a silly term. It's a shock. Just what you mentioned: Facebook, Twitter, Google, Instagram, and they're all left, all of them. They're run by people who are very, very much at peace with shutting down dissent, because any place the left has ever controlled, from the Soviet Union to Columbia University, dissent is not allowed.
Yeah.
There is no exception in the history of the left that they would allow free speech.
So you were talking about your days of studying in university and having the Marxist brainwashed. Do you think that the control of the radical left on universities and colleges is the root cause of the radicalization of our society?
There are many root causes. This will be interesting how you react to this one. I have a belief that I have a sort of sets of equations to explain life. So one of them is affluence plus secularism plus boredom produces leftism. And leftism fills the hole that the death of Christianity has made in the United States. No one in the world is irreligious. There is no non-religious person living. The question is only, what is your religion? And for the left, environmentalism is a religion. Yeah. Feminism is a religion. The substitutes for what we call Judeo-Christian values, they're all substitutes. And there are fewer church-going Americans than in the history of the United States, percentage-wise. And what are they going to do? And the answer is they go to the church of the left.
And the church is the university or college.
The university is giving them the religion.
Right.
But the emptiness precedes university.
So how do you think that conservative parents in Israel or the United States can overcome it? I mean, every parent wants their child to be successful, so they send them to the best college. Happen to be that the best college and the best university are always the most radical brainwash factory for their children. And I see a lot of younger generation that's becoming progressive, although their parents are conservative, because they've been brainwashed in university.
So I go around America lecturing almost every week, and I meet tens of thousands of people. So I will meet, let's say, conservative parents somewhere in the United States, and I feel free to ask people personal questions. So I'll say, do you have children? Yes. How many? 4, 3. And then I will say, if I may ask, how many of them share your values? And in the thousands of people I have asked, I have the following unscientific breakdown. 1/3, all their children share their values. 1/3, half their children share their values. 1/3, none of their children share their values.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, the pain that a lot of parents go through. Do you know that there are millions, I think millions, not a handful, I think millions of families in which the adult child does not allow the parent to see the adult child's children, that is the grandchildren of the parent, because the parent voted for Trump.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. So what can parents do? I mean, they cannot not send their kid to a college or university. They want their kid to be successful in life, to have a good career, to have a good job. Today, without a BA, you don't have anything. This is basic.
This is a very big problem. And personally, not just personally, ask any of these parents, if you could do it all over again, would you have sent your daughter to college? And of course, they'd say no. But they assumed that their child would not be twisted by the university. Do you know that there's a phenomenon? We have it worse, I believe, than you do. You may catch up one day, but I'm telling you, for example, this new phenomenon of a pretty large number of teenage girls who announce that they're transgender. This has never happened in recorded history. that a serious percentage of teenage girls announce they're boys. How's that for a jolt to a parent? And it's very much because of the school, very much.
Yeah.
Well, so I tell parents, homeschool your children. I'm adamant about that. The best thing you could do is homeschool your child. Then you have vaccinated them against drivel and nonsense and awful ideas, and they can go to college.
Yeah.
So that's the irony. If you homeschool your child till the age of 18, at 19, they could probably go to college.
Or maybe, to be more, make it an issue in elections of voters demanding their state, or in Israel, the country, to not involve politics and social science, which is not science, it's pseudoscience, in school. Just maths, English, stuff like that. Tools that will give them in life.
Right. In America, the only way that would work is if a vast number of Americans did not send their kids to school, to high school, but kept them home and schooled them home, or did not send them to college, because they all care about money.
Right. Well, but we see that it worked in Virginia. A big part of the reason that
you're right, but it didn't change. Right, but it didn't change the University of Virginia.
No, but
it changed the governor of Virginia.
Right. But the parents made it an issue. The voters of Virginia made it an issue, and the governor was elected because of brainwash propaganda for children. And maybe now, as a governor, he will change it. And I think maybe the solution for college and for university is there is hardly any conservative university in America, in the States. In Israel, there is none. So I guess maybe I'm just thinking about the solution is to send your children to anything but social studies. Social social studies are not real science. That's
correct.
Propaganda. If they learn computers or I don't know,
or medicine,
medicine, they literally, even if it's the most progressive university, they actually do study something real and not just Marxist propaganda.
Right. The problem is in America, I don't think this is yet true in Israel, but it may well come to that. The sciences have been corrupted as well. The American Medical Association, I repeat, announced last month that it is against listing the sex of a child when it is born.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't get more, as we call it, woke than that. And the New England Journal of Medicine and the Journal of the American Medical Association, they're increasingly printing things that have nothing to do with medicine, but about equity and about racism. So the corruption is universal. The New York Times music critic, I'm very involved in classical music. I periodically conduct orchestras. And the New York Times critic, Anthony Talmasini, came out against blind auditions to join the New York Philharmonic. What is a blind audition? Somebody auditions to be in the violin section or the trumpet section. They're behind a curtain. So you don't know their race, you don't know their sex, you don't know if you know them. It's completely fair. It's based solely on how well they play an instrument.
On merit, yeah.
On merit. The left is against merit. Yeah. They want members of the New York Philharmonic to be chosen on the basis of race.
Which is racist. In the name of anti-racist, they're racist. In the name of anti-fascism, they're fascists. That's
correct.
Amazing. But I have another question. Why do you think that the left in Israel and America controls the media like 100%? In America, you do have Fox News and Newsmax. In Israel, we have nothing. 100% of the media in Israel is totalitarian, Soviet-style, shameless propaganda. Why is that? Why they're so good in doing propaganda in media, in films and stuff like that?
Well,
and we're not.
See, one big reason is most conservatives are not preoccupied with politics, and they have no great desire to have power. So the left is at a distinct advantage in all of these issues. They are preoccupied with politics and they want power. The conservative wants smaller government by definition. If they don't want smaller government, then they're not a conservative. That is a defining element of a conservative. I want to have less power over you. So therefore, the conservative looks at the media and thinks, let's just report what's true. We're not going to use our newspaper necessarily to indoctrinate you. We want to just tell the truth. But they see everything as a vehicle to power. So there's an inherent advantage to the left in controlling anything. It takes us a long time to react. And I think there is the beginning of a reaction against the left in the United States. But I don't predict it will win. But I do believe that Virginia was a very important election.
So why do you think the left in America and in Europe is so obsessive about Israel? Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, the only country in the Middle East that have full gay rights, women equality, minority equality and rights, etc. While all around us in the Middle East, there are genocides, there are, look what's happening in Afghanistan to women's rights. Little girls are becoming sex slaves of older men. And the women equality and gay rights in Iran are not that great. Why do you think they're so obsessive about Israel?
Well, I wrote a book on that called "Why the Jews." There are many answers in no order of importance. Number one, Israel represents the West, and the Arabs represent the non-West, and the contempt for the West on the part of the left is deep. And so they don't root for the West in any battle of West versus non-West. Israel is perceived as white, even though half of Israel is not white. They don't care about facts. But Israel is perceived as white. The Arab world is perceived as non-white. In any battle between white and non-white, the left will choose.
Which is, by the way, it's funny because there's a lot of racism in the Arab world towards black. The only place where there is still an active slave markets where blacks are being sold as slaves right now in 2021, it's in Libya. They're selling African black slaves in slave markets, and there's a lot of racism in the Arab world against the black. There was a genocide against the blacks that Sudan made in Darfur the last decade, which is an Arab country.
Yes,
so it's very interesting to see that there are automatically associated with the blacks.
The word for black in Arabic is slave. There was no slavery like Muslim Arab slavery over blacks, and one of the reasons you don't see many black Arabs, whereas you see many black Americans, is that the Arab slave masters generally removed the genitals of the male so that they couldn't reproduce and make families, whereas in America, many of them made families and certainly reproduced. Anyway, back to so you were commenting on my statement, the white, non-white. Then there's another distinction that matters to the left: rich and poor. Israel is deemed rich, so you always root for the poor versus the rich.
Well, the Arab world is also, it's not exactly true because the Arab world
I know it is
very wealthy. Saudi Arabia.
None of this is true.
UAE,
none of it is
Qatar.
True.
Yeah.
These are the perceptions. Another one is Israel is a nationalist country. And like they hate Viktor Orban because of Hungarian nationalism, they hate Israel for Jewish nationalism. That's a very big, they hate nationalism because they don't want, the nation state is the only thing, the only impediment, the only block towards universal power, which is what they would love. That Brussels would love to control Europe, and ultimately have the United Nations control the world. And the World Court adjudicate for every country. So Israel is a Jewish national state. So two things they hate: inherently about Israel is nationalism and religion. Israel is the worst. It's a religious nationalism. So you're
Which is also not true. You know, different studies show that Israel is one of the most secular countries in the world. It's much more secular than the United States. In Israel, it's a little bit trickier because Judaism, it's not only a national, it's not.
That's
only
right. I agree with you.
It's also a religion, but you can be completely atheist and still
you
be
can.
Jewish.
You could be an atheist Jew, but it doesn't matter. The fact is, Jewish nationalism in their minds is a combination of religion and nationalism. It is the worst combination you could have. Ironically, they don't hate India, which is also, it's a Hindu national country. So therefore, there must be something unique about Israel.
But the Palestinians and all the Arab world is very nationalistic and very Islamist, very religious. There is no such concept of secularism as we know it in the Arab world.
That's right.
If no matter how secular you are, and even in Israel, we have Arabs who are in the Communist Party of Israel. Israel has a Communist Party that's made up of Arabs, and the Arabs there in the Communist Party fast on the Ramadan, and they go to prayers in the mosques, and they're communists. Even the Arab communists are still religious and still following Islam. So how come they're fine with nationalism and religion?
Well, your question originally was how come they're fine with Israel with its gay pride days in Tel Aviv and even Jerusalem, and gays are thrown off roofs in Tehran. So they don't care. It doesn't matter. Israel is an outpost of the West, and they hate that fact.
So you say that the major battle in today's world is between nationalism and globalism. And you can see that, I mean, the only way for democracy to be real is in a framework of a nation state. If you're a citizen of a specific territory, of a specific nation, and you have the right to vote in elections, if there is no boundaries, like, in their Imagine song of John Lennon, in their what the globalist dream, there is no borders, there is no countries. So how could there be democracy? Who will control the world? In democracies, we control our fate, the citizens, by electing our leaders, and we can vote them out. But if the world will be controlled by globalist organizations like the UN, like the EU, that are run by bureaucracy, international bureaucracy, with no elections, how could we have freedoms, and how can we have civil rights in such world?
I said earlier that the left always suppresses dissent. The left, you asked, how can we have freedom? The left is not interested in freedom. It never has been. It isn't now. So you're asking a question that doesn't matter to them.
But do you think this is where we're heading to?
Yes.
The decline of nation state and a new world order of the world controlled by multinational corporation. And
why was the elite in America as well as in Europe so angry at the British for voting for Brexit? They were shocked and they were angry. Yeah. Britain asserted a national identity over Brussels. This is a sin. This is eating pork on Yom Kippur.
And I think the illegal immigration issue, it's a major part of it, isn't it? We see that the common theme between the left in Israel, America, and Europe is pushing forward illegal immigration and illegal immigrants because they want to change the identity of the country and make national identity obsolete. So we see that since Biden took office, 1 million people got into America illegally. In Israel, we see the left pushing forward very aggressively immigration of Africans to Israel, because we have a border with Egypt and Egypt has a border with the rest of Africa. So they used to flood Israel from our southern border. My father built a wall on our border with Egypt, so it stopped, but now they want to bring them in other ways. In Europe, we see the immigration issue now on the Belarusian Polish border, and we had it before from Turkish and Greek borders. Why are there so why they're so pro illegal immigrants and not legal immigrants?
Because there are different agendas. In the United States, a major agenda is the belief that the more millions from Latin America means more Democrats. So there is a raw political interest. Then there is another factor. Every leftist thinks that he or she is a moral giant, and they feel morally pure when they say, "Oh, let anybody in so that we can feed them and clothe them," and that makes them feel good. Why did Angela Merkel allow 1 million people from the Middle East to come in? Because of the Holocaust. She wanted to say to the world, look, we Germans are different. We kicked Jews out, and now we welcome 1 million Arabs.
Which is quite ironic, specifically with Germany, because Germany today, it's one of the most hostile countries to Israel. It's worked tirelessly to destroy Israel from within, official funding from the German government with billions of euros go to the most radical communist anarchist NGOs inside Israel that destroy our society from within and make Israel the new Nazi Germany, while Germany is the saints. So it's pretty ironic. And I think in Israel, the issues of illegal immigration, and also they have now the Muslim Brotherhoods are in control of the Israeli government. So they are pushing forward what they call family reunifications of Palestinians, which is actually Muslim Arab Bedouins in Israel, Arab citizens, marrying first, second, third, and fourth wives. They're importing them. They never met them before from the Palestinian territories and from other Arab countries, and by so enlarging the Arab Muslim population of Israel. So this is just a way in Israel, I think, for the left to destroy the Jewish identity of the country by just making the Jews the minority in their own state. So obviously, if we're a minority, Israel won't be a Jewish state. So for us in Israel, it's a real existential threat because we are only 7 million Jews out of 9 million people, while 2 million people are Arab Muslim. So it's not like you in the States, 300 million Americans. For you to change your national identity, it will take a lot. For us with 7 million Jews, it's very fragile. And we are, thanks to my father had a policies of all these terms of 15 years of making Israel a capitalist free market economy. So that made Israel from a socialist country, very poor country, to be one of the 20th richest countries in the world, according to Bloomberg, with our GDP per capita higher than Britain and Japan and France. So while we are welcoming millions of non-Jewish immigrants from Africa and the Middle East, our Jewish majority can be wiped off very easily. So this is very extensive.
Well, they don't like national identity. No leftist anywhere in the world does. They think it's fascist. They think it's neo-Nazi. And in the United States, we have a problem, not just because of vast numbers of people coming in. We aren't even producing Americans in America. The number of young people who look at the American flag today and see it as a symbol of racism is extraordinary. When I grew up, we said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning in our school, and I went to a Jewish school, an Orthodox Jewish school, and we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag every single day. We were raised to love this country in the school that I went to in Brooklyn, New York. I've been living in LA all of my adult life, but I grew up in New York. But this is not the case any longer. So we don't even need immigrants.
Yeah.
vast numbers of immigrants to de-Americanize Americans.
Your own young people are
It's being,
de-American.
that's right. It's being done here.
But
I think forgive me. I think that is somewhat being done in Israel too. I think
oh, big time. Oh,
a strong Israeli identity, I think, does disturb the left.
Yeah, they're very much against it. But I was always wondering, as you said, about the young people in America that see the American flag and hate America. They hate America because they say it's a colonialist state and imperialist state, and America was built upon Native American land, which is true. So if they are whites, this part is true with the Native American. If they are whites living on Native American stolen soil, why don't they give their house for free to a Native American and go back to their ancestral homeland in Europe? They don't do that. All the liberals, white people in America that's speaking about the injustice.
Well, here's a beauty for you.
They still living in this stolen Indian land.
In that regard, we had all of my life on October 12th, a national holiday. It's called Columbus Day, because we're celebrating Europe coming to America. And he was the first European to come to America. And
actually, the Vikings came 500 years before in the Middle Ages.
Yes, but they didn't do anything.
They didn't stay. Yeah,
they went back.
Yeah.
So the current trend is to drop Columbus Day and call it Indigenous Peoples Day. So I have a question. Since Columbia University does not celebrate Columbus Day, why do they keep the name Columbus? Columbia comes from Columbus.
Yeah.
But they won't drop it because of all the money and prestige they would lose if they dropped Columbia. Why doesn't Columbus, Ohio, which is a liberal city, why doesn't it drop its name? So it's all phony.
Yeah. So we are running out of time. Just to be a little bit more optimistic, what our viewers, our listeners, as a private citizens, whether they're in America or in Israel or in Europe or elsewhere in the world, can do to help the fight, to preserve their national identity, to preserve their civil liberties,
this is what I'm not going to give Israelis advice to the extent that what I tell Americans would apply to an Israeli. That's fine. But I tell Americans the first thing they have to do is get out of the closet. I remember when gays were in the closet. In the closet, of course, is a saying that you hide who you are, like Marranos. Conservatives in America are Marranos. I tell non-Jews what a Marrano is, and they accept that is exactly what is happening. Gays have no fear of coming out of the closet. Conservatives have a fear of coming out of the closet. And by the way, it is a legitimate fear. They may lose the love of their children. They may lose a lot of friends. They may lose their job. Yes, that's exactly right.
Money.
Yes, and prestige and their pension. But, if people stay in the closet, number one, it's an unhappy place, the closet. I've written, one of my books is on happiness. I take happiness as a very serious issue. And you can't be happy if you hide who you are. Mm-hmm. So on a personal level, it doesn't work. And then you come out of the closet, and at least in America, and you will lose some friends. So that's a good thing. Now you know who you want in your life. But when you come out of the closet, you not only lose friends, you gain new friends, kindred spirits. I see this happen all the time. People meet people who they never knew existed. Oh, you love America? You love freedom? Hey, let's have lunch. So the first thing you have to do is fight, is to express yourself. And we're not we're not yet there in the United States because there are legitimate fears. I don't have that fear, A, that my temperament is to fight, but B, I'm a conservative talk show host and writer and speaker. So I'm paid to come out of the closet.
Yeah.
I don't lose my job. I get my job. I admit it. So it's easier for me to do this than it is for the guy who works at some company.
And what else they can do besides this?
Well, you have to educate yourselves. That's why PragerU is so big. People watch the videos and then they learn what is the difference between capitalism and socialism. Why is big government a problem? Why is nationalism a moral idea? Why? I know that a lot of conservatives are secular, but I think it's a big mistake. I'm not Orthodox, but I am religious because I know that the God issue is the single most important issue. Conservatism will not survive generations of secularism. Their secular kids will look to something else for meaning. So, you don't have many options in Israel because it's almost all Orthodox. So Israel is a separate entity entirely. I know I created a synagogue in Los Angeles, and hundreds of people come, and I've been conducting Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur services for 15 years. 400 people come, and it's not Orthodox, but it's very God and Torah centered.
Yeah,
I'm sort of an anomaly. I believe that God is the author of the Torah, but I'm not Orthodox. I have a sort of strange melange of things, but I'm not fully Orthodox halachically, but I'm Orthodox. I'm Orthodox, not orthoprax. The only reason I mention this is that's also what Prager University advocates, and that is taking God seriously. We do believe if everybody lived by the 10 Commandments, it would be a beautiful world. But you have to educate yourself on what the battles are. Most people don't want to fight, but at least let them help the fighters. That's what I always tell them. The people who give the troops supplies are as important as the troops.
Yeah. And I would add also to be active, to be on social media, speak up your opinions and your truths, go to protests if there is something near you, that's a protest that you agree to its message. Be a more active citizen and not just go to vote once in 2 years and once in 4 years. Being an active citizen.
No, there's no question.
It's not just voting. You need to.
Well, that was what I said. That's coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
Don't be a Marrano.
Yeah, exactly. Dennis Prager, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you.
And I hope we'll have another episode.
I would like that. Maybe we could do it at a different hour.
Yes, for our viewers now, now it's in the afternoon in Israel, but Dennis, it's in LA in the middle of the night. So I thank you even more for that, for staying.
No, I've been looking forward to this. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.